Hi there everyone, A Bag of Vicodin here, the world's least employed journalism major, and it's time for a review of the Red Velvet single, Psycho. Five-girl group Red Velvet, easily one of the five most popular groups of 2019, who started off so very long ago in 2016 as a sort of SM underdog. Their debut single, Happiness, is still argued to this day as to whether it was a flop or not. Those who thought it was argued that it was due to lack of promotion, or the public simply didn't want a song like this, or that this type of lukewarm reception was expected for SM rookies. Although Twice would later release a better song of that type in 2016 with Cheer Up, and proceed to grab all of Korea and place it on its shoulders. Fast forward to now, and Red Velvet has catapulted itself to stardom, with a mix of very catchy and overall different songs, for the most part, with their song producers peppering in different styles and narratives that seem to click perfectly with their music videos. You'd expect a song like Dum Dum to be too repetitive to stay on people's minds, but you could argue that the entire experience from song to music video has raised to iconic levels of K-pop, with their catchy tracks and aggressive harmonizing beating down your eardrums until you reach for the repeat. And it isn't just the type of bubblegummy cutesy stuff that did very well. Their single Bad Boy was my song of 2018, as I felt all of their strengths were put to the test by spreading out their harmonizing and having them sing individually and see if they could stick the landing. And oh boy did they do that. But with each album release, it always felt like their performances were pulled back a bit for the camera, which is an odd thing to say when this is the same group that gave us Murdering Women that were playing Peekaboo, but hear me out. The B-sides on their albums were always the songs that I often came back to on Spotify, even if I was enthralled by every music video that they released. And unfortunately, I feel like Psycho is probably the biggest example of what I admit to be a very niche complaint regarding their music. I don't think I've seen a song in their catalog that has felt so familiar. Now, don't get me wrong, I appreciate when a group wants to go back to the roots when it comes to their red or velvet concept and see what sticks. Both Bad Boy and Red Flavor are easily in the top 10 of the best singles of the decade if we are talking pure, unadulterated Red Velvet. Give me 7 Minutes to Live and I'd have an IV drip with those songs injected straight into my vein. And if I was more of a prolific reviewer, I would have praised CLC's return recently as a type of back-to-basics K-pop that wasn't going to change the world, but would at least remain on my mind a month after its release. The women in Red Velvet know what they are doing. They're all talented, and I'm not here to denigrate them because we all know how far they're basically allowed to take what they're given. The problem is, what they were given was what we've had before. As we start off with the song, it does seem like the melody is going to be different, and I do like the font in the beginning of the video. It sort of looks like we're going back to this carnival atmosphere. But then the beat drops, and this horn takes over the background of the track, and all I could think of is Twice's Feel Special. These chorus intermittent horns that just take me out of an experience that I'm increasingly feeling I already had. And not just recently, merely 3 months ago with Feeling Special, or even further back in Red Velvet's own catalog. This feels like one of the songs where the leaked demo might have sounded much better by how toned down the demo was compared to the original. And it might just be me, but I think there might be something to be said for the feature creep, for lack of a better word, about K-pop this year, where we have very familiar and ostentatious parts of a song sounding so similar that it ends up being distracting. I felt a similar feeling with Everglow's Adios, and that I also felt Adios was just Kill This Love in its tone and execution, but barely different enough for me to not choose a side or risk Twitter crashing down on me like an asteroid. Psycho comes to us from the same producers that brought us Peekaboo previously, and if the song doesn't, the music video makes it glaringly obvious. At least with Peekaboo, this sort of serial killer vibe was different at its time, but Psycho's music video just seems to want to make the lightning strike twice, with another scene of Joy locking herself in with a member, and another after-chorus Irene part with Yeri following it up. Although I do appreciate Irene calling herself the original visual because, yeah, she basically is. I also think that this is probably the song where Wendy shines the most and sounds the best since Sunny Side Up. Joy also stands out way more in this song compared to the others, but I'm not sure if it's for the song's benefit since she always seemed like the normal one to me. The jack of all trades and master of none on the track. And unfortunately, when we get to the end, we have this very lazy lyric writing that just reminds me of the worst of Taylor Swift. The constant "hey now we'll be okay" just feels like it's padding out the runtime with its only real purpose to make it feel like this festival finale without doing the work of changing up the instrumental. The harmony is building up the payoff in this instance, and I really felt like the track should have done that instead if they were going to have the instruments play very loudly and proudly. The last thing I want to talk about is the entire Red Velvet Festival concept that they had going through the year and how it feels like a swing and a miss compared to what it could have been. I'll admit that I wasn't exactly chomping at the bit to listen to more of their music after Zimzalabim. It just wasn't my thing, but I appreciated Red Velvet for doing something different with what seemed like a fresh concept. I'm pretty sure that the group could have had Sunny Side Up as their first single of the year, and it would have done better, but it wouldn't have had as much of a thematic difference compared to Zimzalabim. If we wanted another sunny, happy, summer-go-lucky fun time, we already had half of K-pop during that year, or as we would soon find out, Umpa Umpa. So okay, I'll stick with the idea. And then Umpa Umpa comes out, and I feel like one of two things happened, and I'm still not sure of which one. Either the idea had fallen by the wayside because Zimzalabim was so different that it was harder to think of what the festival would be afterwards, or they wanted to give us something different in Zimzalabim, something red with Umpa Umpa, and then something velvet with Psycho. Umpa Umpa did have these familiar shades of red flavor with how upbeat and familiar of a summer song it was, but it didn't feel as much of a copy as its predecessor because of how fast it was and how different the idea of swimming out your feelings could be. Meanwhile, Psycho is just another peekaboo, another Red Velvet song, and at this far into their career and catalog, we didn't really need that. Overall, I'd give this song a 7 out of 10. It's a song we've all heard before, and its familiarity holds it back from being something iconic like Bad Boy or Red Flavor. I couldn't really give it a higher score on any front since it just sounds like another Red Velvet song. Another K-pop song, and I feel like the song could have done more than that. So, those are my thoughts. Let me know in the comments if you want to see me review other K-pop songs or if you think differently about the song. If you want more reviews of K-pop like this, let me know on here or over on Twitter. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you sometime soon.